Hello, and welcome to Financials Podcast Future Rich. My name is Barbara Ginty, and I am your host, and I'm also a CFP, which is a certified financial planner. And I'm here today with my expert guest, Haley. Hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you are also a podcast host, and your podcast is The Price of Avocado Toast, which is very relevant because it's a big popular item with millennials, and I would say myself. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and yourself and how you got started in the personal finance arena.
Totally. Well, my name is Haley Brownwoods, and I am a co-host of the Price of Avocado Toast podcast. My husband and I actually co-host the podcast together. And I'm a former teacher turned financial coach, so there's just a lot going on here. But I got started in this whole entire arena because of our own story. So my husband and I had a lot of money. This is a wild story, so I hope your listeners are in for a ride. My husband received a $600,000 inheritance settlement for a wrongful death lawsuit of his grandmother. And so it was a lot of money, and we were really young and we didn't know what to do. So we essentially won the lottery.
Can I ask you a question? Was it tax-free 600,000 or was it like
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was $1 million initially, and then there were $400,000 of like lawyer's fees, but we didn't have to pay taxes on it. Okay. And so we got a whole lot of money, and we basically won the lottery, and it's a wild journey, but we blew it in 2.5 years. It's like completely gone to zero. And then we were so used to spending at this super, super high level. We got married, and then like a year later, we found ourselves almost $30,000 in credit card debt, just because we were so used to spending so much money. And then
what did you spend it on? Like, do you have some good memories of like, oh, we went to Hawaii, we flew first class, or
we went to Nashville.
Okay.
We went to Nashville and spent maybe like $5,000 on that trip. So that's not even much of the whole thing.
No.
I honestly couldn't tell you. We blew it.
Okay, so you like didn't get a house or a car or anything?
Well, we did buy a house. So there's that.
Okay.
So that's a huge part of it.
Okay.
So we did buy a house that was like, we live in California, so houses are so expensive. Like, we had enough money to pay outright for the whole entire house, and we just didn't. So we paid like half the house. I think we put down less than $300,000, but that's a whole house in other states.
Yeah.
And we financed the rest of the house, but the rest of it, I couldn't quite tell you what we spent it on. We blew it.
It just ran through your fingers. It was like there, and then it was gone.
Yeah, it was really bad. I've yet to meet someone who is like, oof, my story's worse than that.
Well, basically, probably any lottery winner, right?
Right, exactly. And that is kind of what led me to wanting to do financial coaching, which I'll get to in a second. But we had so much debt. Like we blew through $600,000, and then we ended up having $135,000 combined of student loans. We had $27,000 of credit card debt. We financed a timeshare for $10,000. We financed a brand new 2018 4Runner for $50,000. We had so much debt. And so finally we just decided we were like done with it. And we just got on track and did things really weird. We did a lot of strange things. We liquidated essentially all of our assets to pay off all of our debt. We sold our house, we sold our cars, and it's been a wild 2 years, but like we're finally on the other side, and it's crazy. So that's why I got into this space, because I was like, we have this crazy story. I'm tired of hush, not talking about it.
Yeah. It's unique.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. So what year did you inherit the money?
2016.
Okay, so 2016, you had the money. It lasted like kind of about 2 years?
We got married in September of 2018, had a beautiful $30,000 wedding, and that was the end of the money.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and so now so this recording is being recorded before we're going to air it. So we are at the very end of 2021. So then basically 3 years later, or about 3 years later. Wow, that's a lot in like not a long period of time.
No, it's been the highs of highs and the real lows of lows. Like, it was all over the place. And we didn't really know what we were doing because we weren't taught this. And so when we were paying off our debt, we initially, we got started like so many people with Dave Ramsey. We no longer follow him anymore, but we got started with his book and got on the baby steps and did that hardcore for like a year and a half until we realized like we wanted to kind of just do things our own way, like sell our house. But we felt like there was no support and no one knew what to do and no one knew how to support us, like friends and family, because we're sitting there like we have so much debt and no one knows how to even talk to us about it. So that's how I entered the finance space, like just.
And I would even argue that no one talked to you about having money either. Like when you inherited that money, did anybody, like any friends or family, be like, hey, here's like, read this book or put it in, don't do anything until you have this structure?
Nope.
So it was like no support on either end. Like having money had no support and then having debt had no support.
Yeah. I can laugh at it now. There's a lot of stuff attached to it. Like we've been working through this trauma, but I do find it slightly entertaining now that I'm 4 years on the other side. I'm like, oh, wow, that was really bad.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, okay. So you at some point had to that like come to Jesus moment where you were like, we're out of money and now we have debt. Was there like a specific incident or, okay.
Yes, it was a very specific incident. And we'd been married for a year and my husband and I went on our 1-year wedding anniversary trip to Monterey, California. So it's an expensive part of California.
Isn't that where they filmed Big Little Lies?
I actually don't know.
I think it is. They have all those mansions. Anyway, sidebar. Okay. Huge mansion.
Super, super expensive place. But a little context, my husband and I were both teachers. So up until this point, one of us was in school of some sort. And then finally, we're both full-time teachers making salaries for the first time. We should know how to handle our money. We're finally making decent money. I think we were making about $120,000 combined between the two of us. So that's not that much money where we live at all, but it was finally something, right? Mm-hmm. But by the end of the month, we went on our anniversary trip and we came back and we had absolutely no money. And everything was being put on credit cards, our electric bill, phone bills. And I remember I went to Costco to go buy some groceries. And I came back and my husband and I, we get along really well. We very rarely even have disagreements. And I came home with some muffins, pumpkin muffins, 2 for $7 at Costco. You can't pass up. So I came home with the muffins and he was very angry and was like, why do you have these muffins? It was just a huge ordeal. And it wasn't that he was mad at me. He wasn't mad about me getting muffins. It was the fact that we didn't have $7 to be spending on muffins.
Right.
That was
the muffins was like the thing that tipped it.
Definitely. We didn't have money to buy $7 muffins. And that was a really low to know that we were really that broke.
And that you had inherited all this money and you both had good jobs and were making money.
Right. And so it was like, okay, whatever we're doing clearly is not working. We need to get it together and fix this.
And that's when you started like Googling, or I'm assuming, and came to find Dave Ramsey.
Yes. My brother recommended for a long time to read his book. And so then we went on a road trip and listened to the audiobook. And that's where we got started.
And that was in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So you've done, now you have a podcast.
Price of Avocado Toast. And we started that in June of 2020. And so.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
it went like fast.
Yeah, it goes really fast. Okay. So then you sat down and you tried to figure it out. So you decided to liquidate all of your assets. So you started with selling the house.
We sold my husband's car. He had a paid off RAV4. So we sold that because it was paid off. That was one thing he bought with all the money.
Okay.
And then the next thing we sold was my 4Runner, which we did have it paid off because, like I said, we did things very untraditionally. So we did a cash out refinance against our home the summer before to pay the car off. A lot of like backwards shifting of money.
Yeah.
So we had this paid off, really nice new car. And so then we finally decided, okay, let's sell that and put money towards debt. And then the final straw was our house. We wanted to be closer to my family, and we wanted to have some more support because we were living near my husband's family and they are all working, and my mom's retired, so she's able to help with our young kids. And it just seemed like if we wanted to get ahead and get out of the hole, this was really the only way. And we live in California, so we knew that we'd be able to make some money off of our house and walk away from that and kind of start fresh. And it's been it was a huge emotional process, but wow, does it feel cool to have the knowledge now and to really, truly, genuinely start fresh from the beginning.
Okay, and so you got rid of the student loan debt.
We have the money. We have the money to do it. We haven't quite paid it off yet.
Yeah. Okay. Waiting to see. And then did you get a new house?
We are renting now.
Okay.
It's a very kind of serendipitous situation. We're actually renting from my mom. She has a rental house. So we're back to renting. We're like down the street from my mom, and we're just saving a bunch of money for our next house eventually.
That's perfect. Well, because the nice thing about renting, I talked a lot about this on our podcast, is when you own a home, it's great and it's a good move for some people, but I don't always think it's a good move for everybody, just because of the cost. Like, you never know. Like, I mentioned out loud in my kitchen that maybe I'd buy another piece of real estate, and then as I said that, the refrigerator broke. Like, it actually broke while I uttered the words. So like, if you just don't have good luck with real estate, which I do not, it can be very expensive when things go wrong. Versus renting, if the refrigerator broke, you call your landlord, which would be your mother, but it's somebody else's one-time expense or.
Right. And we had a firestorm. There was a storm and then there was a fire all at the same time, and a tree, a large part of a very large tree in front of our yard fell down and broke our fence. So we had to have the tree removed. We had to have the fence removed. It was just a whole lot of stuff that when you're renting, that's the landlord.
The landlord's problem. Yeah, exactly. And that's not the stuff that like you can't really plan, but you can plan to have cash available for emergencies, but you don't know what the emergency is going to be. Is it going to be $1,000 or is it going to be $10,000 or $15,000 because it was like a multiple thing. So yeah, I think that's great. So you're renting and then you'll be saving up. So how did you pick, how did you settle on financial coaching versus the financial advice?
Yeah, that's actually, it's been a very interesting experience. We worked with the financial coach when we were getting out of debt, and we met him through Instagram, through the Debt Free community when we started our podcast last year. And we worked with him for about 6 months, and we just loved the support and being able to have another person as a soundboard to bounce ideas off of. He presented ideas that we wouldn't have ever considered. And so it was really nice having that. I'm also a teacher. I'm no longer in the classroom because I'm staying home with my children and running my financial coaching business. But I thought about it, and this is the perfect way to teach people all the things they should have taught us in school.
But they didn't.
And still be able to do everything that I want to with being able to stay home with my kids, teach still, but in a different way, and just change lives, because that our financial coach was so helpful on our journey.
What was one thing that you thought that you got from the financial coach that was unexpected? Because I mean, you expected to get help with debt, right, and education. Was there anything that was a surprise to you?
I would say the biggest thing was really just having that third opinion. So my husband has his opinion, I have my opinion, and most of the time we're pretty aligned. Like we have different ideas, and then we come together and we make decisions. But then our coach Ryan, he had some ideas that we wouldn't have even thought about. You know, he lives in Arizona. We live in California. We see things differently just based off of how expensive things are in California and the opportunities that don't really exist here. So he was able to present like selling our car, and we came to him with ideas, and he would help like come up with more ideas.
Yeah. Or like take it to another level.
Right. Yeah. Like, well, have you thought about this? This is what your life could look like if you didn't have that payment. If you could remove this payment, then you'd have less expenses and you'd be able to put more money here. And it was really cool to have someone just fidgeting with the numbers when we never even looked at the numbers.
Yeah, well, that's true, because sometimes when you're in it, it's, you know, you're not looking at that 30,000 view, you know, you're like in the weeds a bit and your own finances to get that unique perspective and, you know, neutral perspective. So then, so then you decided you're doing the podcast and you're like, I'm just going to stop. I'll stay home and I'll start my financial coaching business. So talk to me a little bit about how to start a financial coaching business, because this is a very different world than the world that I'm in.
Totally. It is a way different world. And I first started by saying, hey, I think I want to do this. And I went and reached out to a bunch of financial coaches online, through the websites and stuff, and asking them what they did to start. And there was a very common theme that there was no theme.
So everybody was different.
Everyone did their own thing. There are a few programs some people go through. There's Dave Ramsey's well-known financial coach master training. There's Fiscal Fitness. They run a program called the Financial Coach Academy. And then there's a couple other ones that I don't even remember the name for, but those are the two big ones.
Okay.
Some people went through programs, other people didn't. Some people got certifications, some people didn't. So I sat there thinking, okay, well, where do I start if all these people kind of did their own thing?
Yeah, if there wasn't like a roadmap.
Right. So I actually ended up going through Financial Coach Academy, and that was super helpful for getting my business started. I didn't learn information through Financial Coach Academy necessarily about how to coach people. It was more like how to start a business, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Starting a business is that's the whole thing.
Right. And I keep telling people who have actually asked me about financial coaching, like for them to go into financial coaching, that your experience is really what qualifies you to do this.
To do it.
You know, we blew through a lot of money. We paid off a lot of debt. I can't say that our experience is going to be exactly a mirror of anyone else's, but that is the really big qualifier there, someone's experience.
That makes total sense. And then what about with starting it? Did you find when you were asking all these other coaches, are they doing it full-time or part-time? And what are you thinking for your own financial coaching business?
So I am doing this full-time, and I actually started doing it full-time from the beginning because I have two babies 18 months apart. And to have two babies in childcare in California was going to be, $2,500 or so a month. And so that was a huge deciding factor of like, okay, if I could find a job to work remotely, that would be huge.
Right.
So after I had my second child in June of 2021, I said, I'm going to start my financial coaching business in August, and I'll just start full time because I'm not working at the same time. I'll just start it and just go. And that's what I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part of the business, like setting up the business? Was it figuring out your pricing or your revenue model, or what?
Oh my gosh.
From the business standpoint?
There's so much. I think just starting the legal part was difficult. There were so many options. Some people do LLCs, some people do S Corps. I just decided to do the sole proprietor option for this rest of the year. I started in August. So from August till December wasn't that long. And actually to get an LLC in California, $800 a year, not just once, every single year. So I decided I'll hold off until 2022 to do that. But there were so many options and I didn't really know which one was the best option, especially being in California. A lot of the research on the liabilities and the insurance, working with my CPA, the whole thing, there was just a lot more than I had ever really anticipated with the legal part of it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I am just curious, do you go over investments as a financial coach, or do you just stick with like savings and debt goals?
That's a really good question. And I think that is the main difference between financial advisors and financial planners versus financial coach. So no, the answer is no. So I do not do that because, you guys went through so much schooling and certificates and all of that. We do not do that. So I work primarily with the mindset and the behaviors of money and working towards goals. My special niche is paying off debt because that's what I did personally.
Right. Okay.
So I love helping people pay off debt. I will point people in the right direction for where to go with investments, but I do not talk investments with people besides basic, like, hey, you could open a Roth, but that's that's about as in depth as I get, because it's not my specialty. And I think that I do believe you need to have a financial professional in your corner, whether that's a planner or an advisor. We work with an advisor, and it's funny because a lot of financial coaches hate on financial advisors.
Yeah.
And I don't see that, because I believe you gotta, like, I would never do my own taxes. I pay someone to do my taxes.
Yeah, I pay someone to do my taxes too.
Same thing with investments. I don't want to do my own investments, so I'll pay someone to do it for me and help me win.
Yeah, I heard a really good analogy, and because I didn't really know much about financial coaching because it's not my background. But I do agree with you. It seems like two very different communities, and they kind of don't engage or work together from the outside, at least it looks like. But to me, it makes total sense, because a financial advisor, in most cases, doesn't really have the time or the bandwidth to focus on a debt repayment strategy or money mindset or psychology. They can a little bit, but it's not, as you were saying, it's not really what you go to school for, right?
Right.
And so to me, it's like a perfect bridge that you would start with a financial coach to get you to the position where you have money to invest, and then you need investment help or estate planning and retirement income planning, like it bridges you to that next level. Because if you can't get there on your own, then that would be the coaching would be the vehicle to get you there, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I tell my clients who come to me for consultations. Like, do you help with investing? And I say, well, you have $2,000 a month of debt payments. Are you really in a place to be maxing out your 401k? I mean,
no,
really,
probably not.
We have to look at that situation and then take those steps. Most people do need a financial coach before they're even ready to work with a financial advisor or planner.
Yeah, no, I read an article about it, and I was like, that makes like the perfect marriage, right? Like start with here, and then it can get you to the next part. And then how does it go for somebody who's looking for a financial coach? Like, what would your recommendation be for how to look for them? And then also, how do you pay for a financial coach, right? Because the hard part is if you're in debt, right, adding another item that you're paying for.
Right. So if you're looking for a financial coach, I would just recommend reaching out to a financial coach, myself, or really any financial coach, and asking to have a consultation with them.
Okay.
This is my personal opinion. I believe that you need to have a free consultation to meet them to see if you even jive with the coach, because I'm not going to be the best coach for everyone, just like they're not going to be the best client for me. I think that those should be free consultations. So if someone's trying to charge you for a consultation, you might not want to work with them. That's my opinion, because you have to figure out if you're a good match. Yeah,
because you're going to be working really closely together. So
yeah. And your question about payment, I think also a lot of financial coaches, this went in my research too. I was asking a bunch of people, what do you pay? How long is your term? How does this work out? And it's all over the place. So some coaches charge $100 a month, and others will coach for $800 a month. It is all over the place. So in the process of finding the right coach for you is finding the right coach / someone you can afford. I charge $247 a month, so it's about $1,500 for the whole 6 months, and essentially that's $1,500 to fix a $30,000 problem if someone has a big debt problem. And if someone's ready to do that, most of the time they can find that money in their eating out budget or somewhere else to move it around and prioritize. But I don't believe in severely overcharging people when they're in debt. That does not make sense.
Right. And I agree. They probably have it somewhere in their budget and when they're ready to make that change. And then for you, for instance, is it like a 6-month contract, right? Because it's not, you would want someone that would want to sign up for more than a session or two, I would think.
Yeah, I do 6-month contracts because it takes at least 3 months to get the budget going. And even then you need so much hand holding after you're like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. You still need a lot of assistance. So by the end of the 6 months, you should feel confident that, okay, I know what I'm doing. I think I can do this on my own. And some people may continue on after 6 months. Some people may go month to month after that, but I do require initially it's a full 6-month period.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nothing good happens overnight.
Nope, not at all. I mean, it took us 2 years.
Right. Yeah. No, it takes time. Depending on the situation too, how severe it is.
Right. And especially with new habits and breaking bad habits and establishing new positive habits, those are going to take time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cause a lot of it's habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And getting used to a new budget is definitely a new habit.
Totally.
So what would, if you had to give somebody who was listening to this podcast, because we have a lot of women that are interested in getting into the personal finance space. And I really like the idea, kind of like what you did. If you're really thinking about career change, I think financial coaching is a lot, just my opinion, a lot less daunting to get into, because as you said, there's so many different ways to do it versus maybe the CFP route's like pretty set. So like if you want to kind of customize it for your own lifestyle. So what would your advice be to a female who's looking to get into financial coaching?
Reach out to a financial coach and ask them questions about what they did. Most of us are really open about sharing the process. Every single person I asked was super open. They told me everything. They told me how much they charge, how long everything is, what they did to get started, how much everything cost. And that's kind of where I recommend getting started. Just go pick someone's brain, and you don't need to have it all figured out to get started. And that was what kept me from starting sooner, because I thought I have to wait till I have the baby. Yes, sure. I was pregnant. I should have waited. But I was like, I have to wait till I have the baby. I have to wait till I get all my ducks in a row. And to be totally honest, I'm very successful in my business right now. I have 20 clients and I don't even have a website up and working. Like, you don't have to have everything up and going yet.
That's amazing. And so do you also think that if somebody was hesitant, maybe not where there wasn't a 2-household income, or they couldn't afford for, if speaking from a woman's perspective, she couldn't afford to quit her job because they need that money for the mortgage, or because it's a 2-income household, do you think that you could be profitable in a year, is question one. And question two is, if you don't think, do you think you could start on the side and supplement your income until you had the flexibility to quit?
Definitely. I would recommend, if you're not in a position to, I just sold my job. There's a lot of privilege coming from my situation. Did I say sold my job?
Yeah.
Well, I just sold my house.
Oh, you sold your house.
I wasn't going back into teaching. There's a lot of privilege in my situation where I didn't have to go back to work immediately. And if I wouldn't recommend someone just quit their job and go be a financial coach overnight. I would recommend actually starting it on the side, build it up, take some clients, and then if you want to take it full time, you totally could once you get it going.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest issue for women who are interested in getting into this field, is if they don't have the ability to quit their job because they need it to make their monthly obligations. How do you ease your way into it? So starting it on the side. Right, because I would imagine you're able to set your hours with your clients, right?
Yes, and you can set your hours however you want. The best part is it's remote. Most of my clients are on the East Coast and I'm in California, so I can adjust schedules. We can meet weekends or after work, because most of my clients do work a traditional 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 job. So, they can't meet me in the middle of the day anyway.
Right. Yeah, because they're working.
Right.
Perfect. Okay. So for anyone listening, the advice would be to reach out to someone else who's already doing it. Maybe someone you would like. I always say it's always nice to look at someone and be like, I would like to do what they're doing. Like, I like their lifestyle. I like how they're running it. That would be to me, that would be the person to reach out to, not somebody you're like, oh, that looks like not the best lifestyle. And then start it as a side hustle if you can, to get it off the ground.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You want to make sure that you're getting your advice from someone that you aspire to, have your life resemble something that they're doing, not just some random Joe Schmo who's super successful and doesn't want to share the information of how they got there.
Yeah, totally. I always just took that's just for my career. It's like, if I'm on this track, do I really want to be that person? Do I want that life that they have in 3 years? When the answer was no, it was like, okay, hold on, let me think about this. Do you think there's any myths about financial coaching that are out there?
Well, I think that there's a huge myth, just that you have to have a lot of money to make progress. And I find that incredibly false. We had a lot of money.
Yeah, it doesn't equal success with your with your finances either.
No, if you cannot manage bringing home $2,000 a month, then you're not going to manage bringing home $10,000 a month. And That's the myth. You don't have to make a lot of money to make progress. You don't have to make a lot of money to get started or to work on your finances. You need to start where you are. And I think that's the biggest myth.
No, I think that you bring up a super valid point, because that's the exact issue. The reason with lottery winners in your situation is just money doesn't solve problems. It actually, I think somebody has said that it magnifies anything. So if you were already bad with money and now you have money, the problems are magnified, right? Because instead of losing $10,000 or being frivolous with $10,000, you're now being frivolous with $100,000. So yeah, I would agree with you, because that is something I also hear in my field. It's like, oh well, I'll wait till I have money, and it's just like, no. You should
you wait till you have money, you'll probably never have money, and then then you're stuck.
Then you're stuck never having money forever.
Exactly.
That's really funny. So do you have any favorite books or resources?
I really like, have you ever read You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero?
I haven't, and I don't think I've read it.
It's a really good book, but that's not the one I recommend. I recommend You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. So she has several different ones that she has written. And man, that book changed my perspective on so many things. I used to think it was that I was bad and bougie for wanting success and wanting to have money and handle my money well and have a really nice life. I used to think that was really not a good thing to want that. Who am I to want that? And that book really changed my perspective, that you can have big dreams and you can do whatever you want, but there's a lot of mindset stuff that has to happen first, which is very aligned with what I do with my clients with financial coaching as well. So I love that book.
I've never read that book, so I will add that to my list. That's one I haven't heard yet on the podcast.
Well, everyone should go listen. Oh, I listened to the audiobook, so that's why I said that.
I still am one of the ones who really likes a regular book.
Yeah.
Because then I can put my phone away. Yeah. I mean, I have a bunch of books here. So I like to be able to sit down with a book and read it when work isn't busy. If work's busy, I listen to everything audio because it's just an easier mechanism. But I like that. And I also agree with you. I feel especially with women, it feels distasteful almost to be I want to make money or I want to have money. And it shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, when we sold our house, and we told a few people that we wanted to sell our house to go move somewhere to have a bigger house and have this life. And a few people made some comments about well, why can't you just be content here? And there's nothing wrong with wanting more. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting better or more. And for a long time, I thought that was shameful to want a really nice house and to be able to provide for my kids and let them do all the sports that they want. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's basic. We can have nice things.
Yeah. And everybody has their own path, right? So if you're happy with what you have, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want more than what you have, there's also nothing wrong with that. I feel the opinion is you should just be happy with what you have, and that's the right way to be. And it's not. You can want less or want more. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I am content with what I have, but I also want more.
No, I agree with you. And I feel especially with women, I feel and I could be wrong, but I feel if a man says, I want to upgrade, or there's less shame around it, there's less judgment around it.
Well, it's the man that worked really hard for all of this, so they're all deserving. And for us, I often feel it's viewed the Real Housewives. You just have this really fancy thing because your husband worked really hard. But what about us working hard?
I know.
I mean, let's talk about that.
Thankfully, this is not, it happened to me a couple times in Utah, I think just because it's more traditional here. It never happened to me in New York, but they'd be like, oh, is your husband home? And I'm like, no, I don't have one of those. Bought all this myself. Thanks for asking though. It didn't really happen to me in New York because it's just, more normal in Manhattan to be a single successful female. Then I came to Utah a couple of times. Do you have a husband? Is there a man here? And I'm like, no,
who's paying the bills?
I pay all these bills myself. This is all mine.
Love it.
But yeah, no, I totally Totally agree with you. So I will definitely check out that book. I'm going to add it to my reading list for 2022. And so then where can all of our lovely listeners find your podcast and also find your coaching business? Is there not a website yet? Maybe there'll be a website when we air this?
I don't know, maybe. The website's going real slow. I live on Instagram, so you can find me at Price of Avocado Toast on Instagram, and slide into my DMs, and I can ask you. You can ask me questions about coaching, about like wanting to be a coach, or if you're listening and you're interested in having a coach, I can answer all of the questions and point you in the right direction for people who can help you if it's not me. Also, our podcast is Price of Avocado Toast, and you can find that anywhere that you listen to podcasts, like you're listening to this one.
So just like this one. Well, Haley, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's a crazy story.
It is. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And for all of our lovely listeners, you can also find us on Instagram. It is actually the best place to get in touch with us. And you can check out our online classes in partnership with SUNY Ulster at www.futurerichpodcast.com.